All right. How is it going, everybody? And yes, you get to hear me all over again, just like you did earlier. I'm going to try not to robot as much as I was earlier, but I can make no guarantees. But Rich had to call his end off today. He had a problem with internet connection, so we're going to go ahead and run through it without him. Show must go on. So let me go ahead and get the introductions out of the way before we start going into topics. So tonight we have Nightstryke joining us.
Is that my cue?
That would be your cue. You got anything to say, sir?
Shut up, be infringed. And hi, thanks for the invite.
Not a problem, as always. And then we also have Rick. Rick's Life as We See It. How's it going, Rick?
Hey, going great. Thanks for the invite.
Not a problem. And then, as always, producing, we got John Z.
Howdy. Thanks for everybody for being here, and thank you for everyone on the panel. Have a great show.
And then, of course, we've got Gunpowder Beauty.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up, and thank you, everyone, for being here. Tardot, that's one. You could have had a little bit more enthusiasm, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gunpowder Beauty, yay.
That's better.
All right, and of course, I'm Tardot357. Tonight, we're going to go ahead and start getting into the topics. We'll go ahead and start with Nightstryke. From what I understand, he's got a pretty hot topic from what I was hearing earlier. He didn't have it during our pre-chat yesterday, but it sounds like he's got a hot one to talk about today. So, Nightstryke, what do you got, sir?
All right, let me pull up the article. All right, it's not a happy.
Oh
article.
Man, you're unprepared.
No, I'm not unprepared. I just don't there right in the side chat. There's the article. More or less, the Donald Trump actually made good on his promise, and he's gotten Jeff Sessions to be his lackey, and they submitted regulations today to ban bump stocks, a modification to high-capacity rifles that lets them fire like an automatic weapon, is what they said. So, yeah. The bad thing is because it's they're doing a referendum or a memorandum, Congress doesn't have to vote on it. It doesn't require congressional approval.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So we'll kind of toss it around the room and see what everybody's thoughts are on that. I've kind of got a general idea of where everybody stands. I know I heard a little bit about it earlier, but I mean, is there any more detail on it, Nightstryke, other than with it being a referendum? I mean,
well,
I heard about
me and Smeggy were talking about it on the Smeggy Cave, and Smeggy went over and looked at it, and there is a process of going through getting something like this through without congressional approval, and it is a rather drawn out process, and they're only like they're only about a quarter of the way through it. But that does not mean that they're still not going to get it through. It just means it's going to take them a long time. But what we perceive as long might only be, half a year, whereas while they posted this, we may not be able to, we may lose it at the beginning of next year or something. It just depends on how fast they are with the with whatever agencies have to approve it.
Okay, so Rick, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's wrong that they ban them. I mean, I'm in the side that I really don't care one way or the other about bump stocks, but if somebody wants one, it's their right to have one. And I agree. I mean, it should be. I don't know how we can fight against it, but we should be able to.
Let me ask you this, Rick. What if you paid for a rifle, just any old rifle, and you bought it, paid in full, and then the government goes around, in the next 2 or 3 years, decides, that rifle is too scary. You can't be trusted to own one, so we're going to ban those rifles. wouldn't you be pissed off?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I mean, but I particularly don't, bump stocks is never, I guess because in the state I'm in, they weren't allowed to start with, right? And I've never used one, so it's something that I never had interest in. But you should be able to have one, Nightstryke. If you want one, and I would imagine there's thousands of people out there that have them.
I don't
They
use
are
it.
entitled to them.
I don't use it anything other than for a range toy and just to have fun out on the range. That's all it's supposed to be for. It's not supposed to be used as a defensive weapon. It's not supposed to be used in a war. It's there for what is the freedom of fun. So, the fun police are saying you can't have bump stocks anymore.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, they are for fun. If people want to have fun with them, go for it, is what I say. You should have the right to own them. I mean, I don't think they should take any rights away from us. But as I said this earlier, they keep taking them little by little. And it's not the federal, I mean, this is a federal thing. But normally, right now, it's the states that are killing us. But that's another subject.
So, Gunpowder, what are your thoughts on it? And I saw Rich jumped in too.
My thought is it's an accessory to a rifle. If it's going to start, first it's going to start with bump stocks, but where is the line going to be drawn? I don't personally use a bump stock right now. Our ranges won't let us use a bump stock at our gun range. But that doesn't mean that I will never have a use for one. I mean, what if we sit there and move on to land and we've got a major population of hogs that need to be taken out? Okay, well, there's a reason I could have a bump stock. But to sit there and say that it makes guns scary or it makes it into a machine gun or how the media likes to portray that makes me think they're dumber than dirt, it turns it to a fully semi-automatic.
How do you make it fully semi-automatic?
Exactly. There is no such thing as a fully semi-automatic gun, but when the media starts talking about bump stocks and AR-15s and anything like that, it always goes to that ignorant phrase. Where does it stop?
Unfortunately, we're dealing with a bunch of ignorant people who don't care to educate themselves. And just like Phoenix says, you can bump fire just holding the gun right or using a rubber band or belt loop. But the problem is the side that's trying to take it away doesn't want to educate themselves about it at all.
Well, and that's the problem. I mean, a lot of them, they refuse to educate themselves. But the other problem is they've got their head so far up their butt that they can't see the light of day on this situation. And so it's easier to go and ban an accessory than it is to address the real problem. And AR-15s are not a scary gun. There's higher calibers out there, but you put a wood grain frame on it, and now it's not a scary gun. That makes absolutely no sense. And these politicians are just reaching for the stars. That is all this boils down to. And the only people they're hurting are the law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, that's another thing. Why do I need to be punished for something some criminal asshole does?
That's the thing. It's always
punished for something some criminal, some terrorist, some nut job does when I follow the laws. I don't break the laws, which is why I'm still able to buy guns. So
that's the problem.
Why are things getting taken away from me? I don't understand this.
Well, no one's ever going to understand it because when you are an ignorant politician, if we take away the guns, we take away the scary guns, we take away the scary accessories, these mass shootings, these terror attacks, all of this, it's not going to happen. Well, they didn't win the war on drugs. There's drugs in prisons, there's drugs in schools, there's drugs on the street, everything else. But you want me to trust that you're going to take the guns away from criminals. The only person that goes onto a gun-free zone with a gun is a criminal. Yet, how many schools, churches, and government buildings and everything else have been shot up? It hasn't been by the law-abiding citizens. It's been by criminals. Yet the citizens who actually obey the law are the ones that get punished.
Unfortunately, Midnight Range TM says, as a devil's devil's advocate. The problem is that just because something is fun doesn't mean you should have it. ROGs are pretty fun, but we can't have them. They don't see any useful use of a bump stock. And the problem with that is when things are known to be dangerous, you can ban them. But when things are out there for fun, they should still not have the right to infringe on people's rights by deciding for people what they consider to be fun.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
let me point one other thing out. This is supposed to be the land of the free, home of the brave. Where's the freedom? Point it out to me, please.
Well,
they're taking stuff away from us. Where's the freedom?
Before I jump over to see if Rich has got anything, Nightstryke, let me ask you a question real quick. So, like I said, I haven't completely done my homework. I saw the news articles. I haven't read through all the bill. So, are they doing any grandfathering, or is it an outright ban?
It's an outright ban, as far as I know. There's nothing on grandfathering or caring about that.
Well, now here's the other side of that. Did you have to do a 4473 or anything, or any background checks when you bought it?
Hell no.
So what they don't know doesn't hurt you.
Of course, I'm not angry about it. That I can't buy more for more rifles.
Yeah, exactly, and I agree with that part of it. I'm just telling you from that aspect. So let me before I start going, let me see if Rich has got anything real quick. Rich, you got anything there?
Yeah, I just have one question. Every time somebody's talking about this today, they keep putting up the truth about guns link. Is there any other sources on that? Because if we stop and think back, the truth about guns was wrong on things before. So is there anything else? Any other sources?
There has been articles on the anti-gun side about it. Pretty much, if you search bump stock ban, you'll see article after article. The majority of them are, your ABC News, your CBS, your I think Fox may have an article on it. A few of them that are out there, but it's a skewed perspective. But they still give you the gist of the information because they really have no reason to pretty much lie about what's happening on that one.
I just want to throw this in. Vanessa Kitty, I think she was responding to what I had said. By that logic, then they should ban all weapons because they are inherently dangerous machines. The problem with that is you research, RPGs have been around a long time. Everybody knows about an RPG. The people who are trying to ban bump stocks and the people who are banning bump stocks have not done any research on it. They can't call anything by its proper name. They don't know any proper terms. They are ignorant to any of the things that they're trying to ban, and that is the main issue.
Exactly. And here's the main issue that everybody says, and I agree with completely, that we kind of missed on so far. And that is the fact that banning the bump stocks is that slippery slope that you always hear talking about. Because their goal is always to pretty much outright ban guns. They're starting with bump stocks. Next thing you know, it's just going to be rate increasing devices, because once you go into that territory of just saying rate increasing devices in general, because they want to get rid of trigger cranks. And you got to remember, when they were talking about this originally, it was rate increasing devices. There wasn't a let's ban bump stocks. It was whatever they increased.
Let's ban everything.
Yeah. So you're talking trigger cranks, everything. You could even be talking about a trigger that has a short reset, like trigger pull. There was even talk, amongst the anti-gun side of including large capacity magazines because you don't have to reload. So when you take that into perspective, you're looking at a fact that when you say rate increasing device, they now have to assign a rate to that semi-automatic gun, which we all know is one pull, one bullet. And so once you say rate increasing device, they assign a rate of fire. That's going to take. They can sit here and say that this rifle right here, whether it's an AR-15, and no matter what company makes it, they can say this rifle right here has its rate is too fast. And you're basing your perspective mostly off of whoever's shooting the gun. It's not even going to be, hand it to 10 different people and see how fast they all shoot it. It's most likely going to be, we're going to hand it to whatever, they'll probably hand it to what do you call it, a full semi-auto boy from that news article, and tell him to shoot it, because apparently they want to see it go in full semi-auto. And, they'll turn around and say, well, that rate of fire, that's more than what it's supposed to be. And so you run into that issue. That's the biggest part of this is, you could say, I don't own a bump stock. I'll never own a bump stock, so I really don't care. But when you look at the underlying what's going to happen because of this, you've got to be concerned, no matter what you own and what you plan on owning.
The domino effect.
Yeah, and exactly what everybody said, to agree with what everybody said, you shouldn't be able to ban something just because it's fun, and you can find uses for it. Gunpowder mentioned hog hunt. And that isn't a good possibility, because if you have a large group of hogs, yes, you want to aim, but you also want to be able to try to pick them all off as fast as you can. When there's a lot of land degradation, they're tearing apart the land. You want to be able to tear them apart real quick.
Yeah, but in all honesty, I mean, Midnight did make a great point that you wouldn't really use a bump stock on a gun to hunt hogs. I was using it as an example, but you're going to want to make sure that you're accurately firing so you get a good, clean shot. Mostly it's for fun time with range, or, maybe you got a crap ton of, I don't even think you could use it on squirrels. Squirrels would probably be like too high of a caliber for them. I don't know what you'd use it for, but just because I can't think of a reason to use it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be able to have it.
Exactly, and I'll let this go to break real quick to throw in some of our links. But what I'll say here is that sitting here, when you talk about banning those, and John mentioned we can't have RPGs. If you really put into perspective why the Second Amendment is there to stop tyranny, if you really put that into perspective, we should have that ability. And, have the arms to be able to stop a government from essentially overthrowing us. So that would mean
the fact of the matter is that the Second Amendment gives the people the right to have every single piece of military equipment that the military has. You want a tank, you should have a tank with a fully operational cannon on it. This nonsense is completely and totally unconstitutional, and there's no other way of putting it.
Yeah, and I tell you what else is scary is the back-ass way they've gone about doing it through the ATF. So what's going to stop them from doing something else, like put the AR-15? Oh, we reclassify that now. Without
exactly.
government.
They're trying to avoid having a vote on this because they know essentially a vote would come down to either the most likely of it not passing, or running into they don't know what's going to happen. They want to better their odds as much as possible. So that's why they're going this route.
Yeah, and they can do it with other things too.
Yep. All right, John. So I'll pass it to you for our first little break.
So we're going to take this time and discuss this sponsor of this channel, Rick's Life as I See It. Brought to you by Rick. He has a show on Saturday called Rick's Life as I See It, and Wednesday, Rick's Life as I See It, Shooting with Disabilities. Go ahead and check him out. He's one fun guy of a time. So go check out his channel, go subscribe, go thumb him up, and go support him.
All right. And as always,
back to you.
Thank you, sir. So Rick, what topic did you bring to the table tonight?
Okay, some more depressing news. By the way, today's show was kind of X-rated. It's not my usual standard, by the way. I just want to add that in there.
That's my fault. I'm sorry.
Rhode Island this week. First off, the local press, I was reading an article, said a few hundred pro-gun people showed up. Actually, it was more like a couple of thousand showed up for a rally. Then they all trooped into the State House to speak on behalf of pro-gun rights. They kept the Senate there until 2:30 in the morning. Pro-guns outweighed the anti-gunners by 3-1, which was good. but there was 16 bills just in the Senate alone. 11 of them were anti-gun. The other 5, if my adding up correct, were pro-gun. You know, I mean, there was one. You know, a good one was defying a firearm silencer and permits the use of such a device on any firearm with an overall length of 17 inches or greater, which I thought was okay. Rhode Island does not recognize anybody else on concealed carry. There's a bill in there to start recognizing other states. So, you know, if they recognize us, we'll recognize them type deal, which would be good. Of course, then you got the ban on bump stocks, binary triggers. Well, there was another one. What you call it? Another bad one is here in Rhode Island. As a concealed carry holder, I am allowed to carry on school property. They've got a bill in to stop that for only police officers can do it. You know, which I think with me being able to carry, I mean, I don't have any kids, so I ain't got no reason to go to the school now. But I mean, the way the law states now, if you're a concealed carry holder and you have kids, just pulling in the front of the school to drop your kids off is you're breaking the law. You're a felon. You know, but then again, if something happens, you're a first responder. You're there. You can take the guy out. You know. So there's that to it. Then they want to limit the 10-round magazines. This is all this kind of stuff that went in there, and they want to do that. They want to do away with right now. The local sheriff can issue a concealed carry permit, which is shall issue. Now here's the big one, but they want to get rid of that and make it the AG office only. But the AG in Rhode Island is may issue, which is which goes against the grain. But out of all this, I'm going to cut it short because I can go on and on. I mean, I haven't even got to the House bills yet. We won't even talk. But there's one House bill that I love, and I mentioned it on my show earlier today. Here it is. House Bill 7266. Repeal the general law that prohibits a person from challenging another to a duel with a dangerous weapon and from accepting such a challenge. Oh, I love that. You know, but I don't know if that one will pass. But
let me get this straight real quick before we start jumping to everybody. It's prohibiting. It's prohibiting from having duels, or it's allowing it.
It's repealing the. Right now, it's illegal to duel, but they want to repeal that law to make it lawful again.
I just had to make sure I had that right because that kind of
that's right.
That's a doozy.
You know? So I mean, that's about it. That's about it in our week. And luckily, nothing was decided on that night. Everything went to what they call it went to committee. So we got to wait and see what happens now. They'll come back.
Go ahead, Rick.
Now go on.
Go ahead, Rich.
I was going to say maybe the lifting of the ban on dueling is to make it to where gang violence is legal.
Yeah, as long as they call each other out, you're good.
Yeah. I think it's for I can call out one of these politicians when they put a stupid ass anti-gun bill in there.
There you go.
One can only hope.
So, I will just say too, until probably after this show, everybody on this panel will probably be on some kind of ATF watch list. I have a feeling with some.
Oh, absolutely.
Shall not be infringed.
Woohoo!
All right, so let's go through real quick. I know Rich kind of jumped in, and you got anything, Rich? Anything else you want to kind of add on that topic?
Not really. I think Rick pretty much covered everything. But that dueling bill, we were having a good laugh about that one earlier.
Hey, we got Jerry Mitchell. We can clean the house real quick.
Oh, if only.
Well, his finger's got to be cut off or taped up. He's not allowed to use it anymore.
No. Duels are legal.
Oh, for dueling,
We're going to clean up the government real quick.
No, he's going to get into dueling, Rick.
You're only allowed 12 duels per day, though. Okay, no more.
Okay.
Well, hell,
Only
he could take care of
12? Man.
Yeah, but
You don't want to
Mitchell
empty the house, just like that. That would be a mess in itself.
He could duel 5 or 6 people at a time.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay, never mind. No limit.
So, Nightstryke, what do you got, sir?
Earlier that was what I had.
Okay.
You didn't tell me to bring 2 topics. You told me to bring 1.
No. I mean,
No, what are
you
your
got on this
opinion
topic? What is your
or
opinion, sir?
On the dueling?
Oh, no,
On
the
any
whole
of it.
thing.
On the dueling, I'm all for it. Let them knock themselves out. I don't care. You call me insensitive if you want, but it might solve more problems than it'll create.
yeah, it's kind of like adding chlorine to the gene pool. I mean, I think it'll fix its own situation, honestly.
Tide Pods and bleach. That's how you do it.
There you go. Take
it'll
off the
become-
warning labels. It'll be all right.
I can already see that would become the new trend for a challenge video.
I challenge you to a duel, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, imagine
Who
all the
wants
money
to
they
be
can
my-
make
who wants to be my
if they act it and show it on TV. Have stadiums full of people to watch a duel.
Rick, pistols at dawn.
Yes. I'll be taking names for people to be my second.
And honestly,
pistols, here we come.
when you talk about the overall gist of what y'all are getting as far as laws that are being pushed through your House and Senate, it really sounds like you have got a bipolar government up there.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got a kind of a mixture of both sides in there, and they just really don't know what to even try to do, especially since they're throwing out dueling. That's I can say that's the first. I've heard of it before, but that's the first. Usually it's repealing.
Yeah.
Usually that's repealing what? Oh, he and Gunpowder Beauty both jumped out. So.
And on that note, we're going to take another break. And our next channel is going to be Nightstryke 1. So check out his Tuesday show, Hit or Miss, his Friday show, The Friday Night Strike, as well as reviews, unboxings, computers, and food. So go ahead and check out Nightstryke 1 today.
You forgot guns.
Shh.
Do you do stuff about guns too? That's what
I do too occasionally.
Okay.
We don't want to spoil the surprise.
Oh, was that right? Oh, sorry.
And Bob, back to you.
Thank you. Apparently, I guess John knocked me off of there so that he could throw in the next break. So hey, it all
It's
works
the only
out.
way we can get you to shut up every now and then is knock you off.
So I'll check. Rich, do you have your topic tonight? You want to throw yours out there?
Yeah, I was looking at an article that appeared on Northeastern's website for their news division, and basically it's saying schools are safer than they were in the 90s, and it goes through and it has a bunch of different stats for it, and they have one chart here where excuse me, it shows that in 1993 to 94 was the peak for school shootings. These are shootings with 4 or more people. They had over 30 that year, close to 35, if I remember correctly. And since then, we are now at less than 10 a year. The low point was in 2001, I believe. Hold on, try and see that this writing's like really bad. 2007, 2008 was the low point. There was maybe 2 or 3 that year. So all in all, the article is basically saying that all this hysteria about, schools are less safe and they're getting less and less safe every year is a bunch of hogwash. And
I believe that.
That's what I got for this. If I were to go on, they'd still get into the anti-gun nonsense because hey, it's a university. Of course they are.
Yeah, and
But yeah,
I'll kind of open it up instead of going each person. We'll open it up to the room on that. But
yeah. Oh, hold on, I got a little bit more.
You do have a
here.
little bit more? Oh, okay, I thought you stopped.
Yeah. No. There one example that they have about, they talk about making schools fortresses and such. If you remember, I forget whose channel it was. We were having a discussion. I think it might have been Jelsma's, where we were talking about in the side chat or the outside chat about what would happen if you put guards in the school. And in 2005, they had in Arkansas or Minnesota, excuse me, they had a metal detector at the school and an armed guard there at the school. The shooter walked in, shot the guard, and just kept on going. The metal detector and the guard didn't do anything to deter him. So that's where I'm going to leave off on this article, because I'd be here all night trying to read this.
All right, yeah, I'll just kind of open it up to the room, but I'll say one thing on that is I'd believe it, and if you actually take the standard that the anti-gunners use in saying school shootings, and you start applying it to back in the 90s and stuff, you'll see there were a lot more school shootings, because 90s, that was a really kind of the heyday of, I mean, we still have gangs now, but I think that was more of a heyday for your little street, thug street gangs. And so if you say that a school or a shooting in a parking lot nowadays at a school, even if it's closed, that's a school shooting. Well, if you look back then and you compare that and say the same thing, you'll probably see 20 times more back then than you would today when you're talking nationwide. Now, I say 20 times more. Don't take my word on it, because I haven't looked that up on an article, but I'm fairly certain that'd probably be a pretty good number to go with. But so what does everybody think? What kind of thoughts y'all have on that?
They're not any safer, or they're not any more unsafe either, because people say, "Oh no, we didn't have this many shootings." Yeah, I was in school. I went to high school in the late 90s. I remember Columbine. Don't give me that shit. It was just as dangerous then as it is now. Period. It hasn't gotten any better. It really hasn't gotten any worse than it was. It's just people didn't pay attention to it then.
Oh yeah, and one thing I'll say is people talk about having we got real mixed on when we talked about arming teachers, and we threw out there, and a lot of people have thrown out there, throw a metal detector in there, throw this out there, this there. Well, the thing is the metal detector isn't going to stop the person with a gun. The thing is you're going to have somebody armed and trained at that metal detector to be able to respond to that situation. And they're going to have to know to pay attention before that person gets to the metal detector, because chances are they aren't going to walk through that metal detector without already popping off shots. So,
and we all know response is slower than the attack.
Exactly. So you got to have somebody who's pretty much got their head on a swivel and is ready for something to happen. But you want to, same sentence. You want to make sure you don't have somebody that's going to just pop off rounds on the first person they think is suspicious looking. So Rick and Gunpowder, y'all got anything you want to say on that?
Well, my only problem with metal detectors is you're going to sit there and cause a slightly bigger issue, because now any girl that has a pair of fingernail clippers or a metal fingernail file or anything like that is going to make that metal detector go off, and then she's going to have people, or guards or police, whoever's manning the metal detector, pretty much doing a complete search of her bag and her person because the metal detector went off. I think that arming the teachers is going to be less of a cost for the district than installing $12,000 something metal detectors at each entrance or wherever they put them.
They're actually more expensive than that.
Well, it's going to save them even more money.
Exactly.
That is, I cannot believe that the district is willing to pay that much money for a metal detector when you can sit there and arm your teachers for a lot less money.
All right. So,
Yeah,
Rick, you got anything?
yeah. On that is also, I think today's society is totally different to what it was back then, and I'm an old. I mean, I graduated from school back in the early '70s, so I'm an old boy. But I remember kids coming to school with their shotguns and rifles hanging in the back of their pickup trucks. So they were going hunting after school, you know. But no, today the reason is like television. It's 24/7. You know, so you hear about it all the time now. Back then, you didn't. So I mean, as I said, they had them back there. You know, they've always had. It's always been around. But today's society, I think it's more dangerous today than it's ever been.
Absolutely, because back then the media didn't sit there and pretty much make these nobodies into these famous, I don't really want to call them martyrs, but they pretty much put fame into committing a crime. And so these young kids that are looking for that 15 minutes of fame are out there doing this stupid crap because they know the media is going to sit there and say their name, talk about their life, anything else, and it's going to be one of those, well, right now I'm a nobody, but if I go and do something like shoot up my school, well, everybody's going to know my name. No, back then you got treated like the nobody that you were.
Absolutely. I mean, like that last one in Florida. I mean, they spent 15 minutes following the camera in a helicopter, following the ambulance to the goddamn hospital. Why? It's just unbelievable the way they do it today.
Because
really is.
the media loves to glorify the murderer.
Yes.
And their horrific actions. Yes. They love to glorify it.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I'll even say this much. We talk about there being 24-hour TV. Well, it's not just 24-hour TV. The TV is putting out material as well as some music out there and as well as some games that glorify the killing of somebody. They glorify the use of a gun. Now, I know we all enjoy, and I love going to the range and using my gun in that way. But to be honest, I don't want to have to use my gun to hurt anyone. But if I have to, I will. It's not something I'm going out and wanting to do. It's just if I have to do it, I'll do it. But when you glorify it on a lot of stuff and make it to where, I'm not going to say the kids think they're going to gain points by hurting somebody, but when you glorify it to where they make it sound like this great thing that you're doing because you're going out and hurting somebody, you've got some kids that are going to hear that and they take the message the complete wrong way.
Oh, yeah, they become immune to the right way.
Well, and the other issue is that those that are actually defending themselves, the media sits there and portrays them as the bad guy and the one that got shot as the victim. And it's like, no, you need to get your facts before you sit there and start blasting the person that was defending themselves.
And it's not only that. You notice how some things are publicized and glorified and other things you don't even hear about. Look at all the things that we don't know and that we don't hear about, that we have to go through other sources to find out because it's just not exciting enough for the media, the mainstream media.
Oh, I'll tell you. Usually, I'm pulling up. I spend more time pulling up local media because that's where you're going to see, local man or heck, we had it here in Texas and a few other places too. There was a local teenager, somebody, I think it was a 16-year-old was one of them. I remember here used an AR-15 to defend himself and his sister because somebody was breaking in and trying to basically rob the house and rob them. And he pulled an AR-15. The guy had a gun and he defended himself. And it was kind of funny listening to them talk to the kid, but it's the perfect example. You don't always hear that stuff on national news, but we heard it like crazy on local. So that's the big thing is you really got to look at the local news because while they're still run by these major news organizations and they still have a skewed perspective sometimes, you actually will get more, pro-gun news than you would on the national level.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But I'll sit there and spend time searching it every once in a while. I'll just sit
I
down
actually,
and
I
search
actually like what Midnight TM Range just said. The increasing violence and play with kids has been a slow progression, though. It's not like we went from cops and robbers with our fingers to killing hookers and GTA in a week period.
Yeah, and I want to put it out there when I said that, and just to make sure everybody understands that in the chat, that I'm not saying video games are the problem, and I don't think we should censor anybody's video games, TV shows, stuff like that. But there does need to be a level of ownership when it comes to the glorification of what's happening on it, especially when it comes to the news.
Yeah, a good example of that, somebody mentioned like TV shows and stuff like that. One of my favorite old-time shows, and you guys, I imagine some of you watched it, was Sons of Anarchy. Right? There we are, was a gang,
Yes.
a motorcycle gang who killed people every goddamn week, and they were portrayed as the good guys of the show.
Definitely. And, that was a show I watched too. But it's also a show that I'm not going to sit,
No, but what I'm saying is a young kid watching that, because, some parents don't watch what their kids are watching, watch that. But where I'm going was, it was portraying a bad gang as the good guys. That's what our television is doing today.
And that's exactly what I was pointing out there. Is you've got shows, games, music, all kinds of media out there that glorifies the heck out of killing somebody.
Yeah.
And even on a good shoot, the fact that you had to kill somebody shouldn't be glorified. But the fact that you defended yourself or your family, that it was a defense situation, that should be the part that's glorified. There shouldn't be he killed somebody, yay. It should be, he was able to defend himself and his family, yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one final point I want to bring up is we keep hearing, and this is the reason why I brought this article up, about how school shootings are an all-time high and all this other nonsense, where when you break down the numbers, as the professors who actually are doing this study of this article is based on show, that's simply not the case. The school shootings themselves, you might have a higher casualty count in the school shooting per school shooting, maybe. I don't think they correlated that part of it, but the number of the shootings themselves is what's down. And we keep hearing how the shootings are up. School shootings are an all-time high, and it's not the case.
And I'm willing to bet that I'll let John do the break after this real quick. I'm willing to bet if you actually break it down even further, each shooting itself may have more casualties than what was happening back then, with it being a lot, if you look at a lot of gang violence, you may have a couple of people, a couple of casualties versus, these shootings we have now. But if you add all of the numbers together, I'm sure there is probably still more casualties back then than there were now, just because of the sheer amount of shootings that we've actually dropped compared to back then. All right. Want to do the break, John?
This break is brought to you by C4 Defense. Go check him out. He has reviews, lessons, and techniques, as well as drills, giveaways, and more. So go ahead and check out C4 Defense today. Back to you, Bob.
Okay. So Gunpowder, I'll let you go. I'll go last here. So Gunpowder, what do you got today?
Well, for my topic, it is the Florida gun ban. It's kind of a mixed topic. The Florida gun ban, a couple of hours after the governor signed it, the NRA sat there and filed a lawsuit with Florida State. Governor, I think it's Rick Scott, he signed on a $400 million school safety bill. It allows school employees to bring firearms on campus, raises the age from 18 to 21 to purchase firearms. It imposes a 3-day waiting period on gun purchases. Also bans the sale and possession of bump stocks. which, as he said, it allows semi-automatic rifles to mimic a machine gun. I can't remember what else it was. I think signed the Senate Bill 7026 into law on Friday. And that was in after the Parkland School massacre on February 14th. But I want to guarantee, well, I don't want to guarantee. I'm hoping that the NRA actually follows suit and it's not just a bunch of smoke and mirrors like they've been known to do. I hope that they actually sit there and follow through with the lawsuit because it does infringe on the rights. Florida State has no problem with their 18-year-olds or 17-year-olds with the parents' permission signing up for the military and going and fighting for our country, but they can't come and protect themselves when they get back to the States. That makes absolutely no sense to me. There's no way that I'm going to be able to keep it family friendly. So what is everyone else's opinions on this?
It's a sad day.
Go ahead, Rick.
I said it's a sad day on Florida, which will pass most of those. The only good one is the only good part about it was being able to carry in schools. The rest of it was absolutely terrible.
Absolutely. I mean, I really love the fact that they are allowing teachers and staff that are willing to actually carry and protect themselves and the students. And since they have a $400 million school safety bill, I hope that they use those funds to sit there and train their teachers and give them extra training throughout the year so they are more comfortable handling situations in case something else like the Parkland shooting happens. I mean, granted, Parkland or Bowman County or whatever it is, they can't rely on the cops to actually do their job. So it would be nice to know that their teachers could step up and be willing and ready to take on a shooter and prevent that situation from ever happening again.
Absolutely. But back to what
what wasn't it? Hold on. Wasn't it any employee other than teachers though that they say could carry weapons and teachers were excluded or something along those lines?
No, the deal that I found, there was 2 separate articles that I read, and both of them kind of went in side with side. It's teachers and staff. I did not find where they said certain teachers were excluded. As long as they can pass their background check and they are willing to do the training, then the school or the state would allow them to actually carry on campus.
So Grim 90 is asking the teachers can carry or do they need school approval?
No, they're basically given state approval, over given school approval.
Yeah, it's not based on the school. It's based on the state. The governor passed it into law that any teacher willing to carry and can carry is allowed to carry on the campus.
Now, is their CCW is going to be everything they need, or they're going to be required to take additional steps?
It did not say that in the articles, but I would hope that since the school district is getting a massive funding for their school safety, that they would actually pay for the teachers to do extra training, because I don't feel that your CCW actually, I mean, you get qualified to carry a gun, but that doesn't give you all the training you need for if you have an active shooter in your school or even to protect yourself. I think that everyone really needs to take on that extra training. They have different classes at your local gun shop, ranges and stuff like that. You can go find trainers and everything, but I think since the school district is letting these teachers carry, I think that it should be part of the bill or part of the funding that they pay for the teachers to do the extra training.
And I agree with that 100%. And I think one way for them to really, without having to pay extra money on top of that, they should be able to give the teachers vouchers whether they'll cover their bills later in their paycheck or they'll give them vouchers that'll cover the cost of whatever classes they want to take. So the teachers can take it on their schedule rather than forcing them to follow a schedule that they have to revolve around and set their families aside. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I agree with that part of it too. They need to make it an optional date. Maybe even give them several dates and say, here's the dates we're doing it. Sign up for one. Try to figure out something so they can actually plan it, their lives around it a little bit.
Midnight
Now-
Range TM is making a comment. There was a state that said no teachers could, but other faculty could, with training that is actually above police requirements, over 100 hours.
Wow.
But again, you're taking the teachers out of the loop, and unfortunately, they are the ones with the kids till the kids are home.
Exactly.
That's a problem.
And that's my biggest issue. I think teachers need to be able to carry, because if you have an active shooter that is at your classroom door, you need to be able to protect yourself and your students. And you can put all sorts of locks and barriers and stuff on the door. But if that shooter gets through that door, you are left there helpless. I mean, what are these teachers that can't arm themselves? They're just going to throw books and hope for the best?
We all know the saying 1 seconds count. We know how that one finishes. So it's really important
Exactly.
to get the teachers involved.
Yeah, guys, Rick was trying to make a point, and I kind of cut him off. What were you going to say, Rick?
Oh no, it's okay. I was just going to double say what Gunpowder said about that law on the age difference, 18 to 21. You said they go serve in Iraq or Afghanistan, kill all the bad guys, come home, they can't even go shoot a squirrel. And also the other thing too was I forgot what it was now. I've waited so long, but that's okay. That's it.
Sorry about that, Rick.
That's all right.
No, I definitely agree with that aspect of it too. And with the federal government pushing that same form of bill, that's where you're going to get that you need to have the age restriction, or the age restriction for military service and everything else increased, so that way, because I agree, if you're able to go fight for your country at 18 and 17, if your parents are allowing it, then you should be able to own a firearm at 18, especially if you should be able to own a firearm when you come back. We're going to let them shoot these guns over in another country, but they can't own them when they come back.
And we're also letting them get shot at.
Exactly.
Don't forget that part.
You're letting them get shot at, and it's even been proven. And I'll even throw this out there: there have been a lot of cases where, and they've done, like range days where they brought soldiers with PTSD or whatever else out and let them shoot, and it's just helped them out. They had that camaraderie of going out hunting, going out shooting, whatever, with other soldiers having that same issue, and it's helped them out. So why take that away? All right, so since we're getting on to the hour, I'll go ahead and let John throw out the last little break, and we'll toss it around the room, let everybody do plugs and stuff.
And today's Gun Channel Blitz, hashtag Gun Channels Blitz, is Georgia Rebel. So go check out their videos and comment in their videos, hashtag Gun Channels Blitz. He does reviews, Second Amendment topics, commentary, and more. So go check out our Gun Channels Blitz member today, Georgia Rebel. Back to you, Bob.
Oh, I giggle every time I'm hearing that now. So, okay, even though I know y'all had your little spots on the breaks, Nightstryke, you want to go ahead and do your little shall not be infringed bit? You there, Nightstryke?
Yeah, I'm here. It's just
Okay. I say this isn't the voices in your head talking to you. We're actually looking for you to respond.
Oh, is that what that was?
Wake up,
It's
Nightstryke.
just one of those things.
Plug yourself into the matrix and throw some stuff out there.
Didn't we already do that at the beginning?
Yeah, but if you want to throw any little bit extra and throw it out there again, go for it.
No, I'm pretty much
Tulsa, Indiegogo, any of that.
I've already done that. I've done all that. So Hit or Miss Tuesday nights 9 o'clock, Friday Night Strike 8 p.m. Eastern, and rant and rave sometimes on Sundays with Roll Call.
All right, Mr. Rick, you got any last comments or anything you
yeah,
want to throw out there?
I mean, I just want to say, besides the plugs that you gave me earlier, I really appreciate it. But also those two shows on Saturday and Wednesday, they are also on Podbean, iTunes, and Stitcher as well within 24 hours of the show ending. There you go.
All right. So, Rich, you got anything you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I just want to apologize to everybody for not being able to be on the show last week. I had internet issues from Thursday until Monday where we had absolutely no internet connection whatsoever or phone, so I wasn't able to be on. And I want to thank everybody who jumped in and helped Tardot and Gunpowder out with the show last week, and that's about all I got to say.
All right. So, Gunpowder, what do you got for some plugging? Sounds so dirty.
Yeah, quit talking dirty. Don't forget, everybody, we have Gun Gals tomorrow night at 8:30 on Jill's Met Outdoors, and we have finally managed to get the tactical nipple t-shirts up on Tardot Productions, www.tardotproductions.com, and the shop link for the t-shirts is actually on the website. I'm super excited. Cover your tactical nipple.
All right, guys. So, I'm trying to get the link in real quick. All right. So, my little bit I got is just, check out www.tardotproductions.com. That's where all of our links are for all our social media. We do have blogs up, but we have been horrible about doing blogs. I think Gunpowder's got one. I've got two. And so we're going to get better at that. We'll get some more blogs up. But there's a paracord store on there. I've got 3 items on there. And I do also do some custom work. If anybody wants to email me and see what I can do, feel free. But check the site out. It's got all our links. It's got our shops. We also have another shirt that I threw up there that is a Pro 2A shirt. It says, I'm pro Second Amendment, and I'm ready for a discussion. And it was mostly something I wanted to do. So when I could wear a shirt around that had that on there to see if anybody would actually bite and come and talk to me.
You're 6'3" with a beard. I don't think anyone's really going to want to talk to you. You look a little scary.
I'll talk to you, Tardot. We'll go and have some ice cream, okay?
Thank you, John. That's so sweet. So, John, you got anything you want to throw out there?
Just go check out Gun Channels. The site is kind of down right now, but they are showing the channels that are there. And the shows are being posted on the top page when you hop onto the site. So go ahead and check out those videos that are running live and the past videos as well. And if you are a registered member on Gun Channels, I don't know if you're able to register now with everything going on, but if you're registered or are able to register on the website, you'll have access to all those links and even hop onto the chat and just talk with some really awesome people. So go check out gunchannels.com as well.
And keep in mind with Gun Channels, it's kind of the equivalent of the 24-hour news cycle, but with a pro-gun twist.
And they discuss everything else from cooking to outdoors. We have a bunch of women on this site. that discuss their own things and share things with the rest of us. So there's a lot of information and a lot of education as well.
Yep. All right, guys. So I hope everybody has a great night, and I think we're all going to call it a night. So hope we will see y'all on the next one. And as always, 2A every day.